Hello student, how are you? And a warmer welcome in the second lecture of the thermodynamics. So today in this video we will be learning the next part of the first lecture. Means in the second lecture we will be discussing some important concepts of the But before we go further, it is necessary to revise some part of the previous lecture, otherwise you won't be able to understand the next part of this lecture. So one by one we will just revise few concepts from the first lecture, means introductory part of the thermodynamics. So at first we have to discuss the questions like what is thermodynamics, what is thermal equilibrium, what is the zeroth law of thermodynamics. And now first of all we will take the question what is meant by thermodynamics. So this revision section is useful for those students who have missed the first lecture or who have not still understand the introductory part, means from the meaning of the thermodynamics. Hence, for sake of your understanding, we will revise this section from the first of the chapter. So first of all, we will understand what mean by the thermodynamic. So the thermodynamic is nothing but the combination of two words. It is thermo plus dynamics. Thermo means the heat and the dynamic means the motion. In short, the thermodynamics means a behavior of heat while it is flowing, while it is in motion, is nothing but thermodynamic, and this is the simplest and easiest definition of the thermodynamics. But the definition of thermodynamics from the physics perception we will see now. The thermodynamics is the branch of physics which deals with the phenomenon of heat and temperature, and it's a interrelation or interconversion of heat and other forms of the energy. So in short, this is the meaning of thermodynamics. So next part we have learned after the thermodynamic is thermal equilibrium. So what mean by the thermal equilibrium? In the concept of thermal equilibrium, the heat is flows from one point to the other point, means heat will be always flow from the point at a higher temperature towards the point at a lower temperature. Thus the flow of this heat will be continuous till the temperature of both the system will be same. Therefore, when the two of the system in which the temperature or heat is flowing will comes to the point at which the temperature of both the object will be same, then we can say that both the objects are thermal equilibrium with each other. For example, we have already taken the example of measurement of temperature of the human body, which is measured by the thermometer. This is one of the best example of the thermal equilibrium, because when the doctor applies a thermometer on your body to measure the temperature, then what will exactly happens? The exact process is your body is at a high temperature and that thermometer or the mercury bulb of that thermometer will at the lower temperature. Hence that these two systems will be involving in this process, means the body will lose the heat to the mercury bulb or to the thermometer, and that mercury bulb will gains the heat, and thus that body and the mercury bulb will transfer the heat, means heat will be transferred from your body to the thermometer. Then these two system will continues to transfer the heat unless the temperature of the two of the system will not be same, means the body will transfer the heat to the thermometer, and when both the systems will come to equilibrium, when the temperature of both the system will be same, then thermometer, that mercury bulb will rise and it will show the correct temperature of the body. This is the procedure of measurement of temperature of the human body. Now we will discuss about the zeroth law of thermodynamics. So the zeroth law of thermodynamics says when the three systems are involving there, means in the process there are three systems involved, in which when the first system is in thermal equilibrium with the second and the second system is in thermal equilibrium with the third, then the first system must be in thermal equilibrium with the third system. But the exact zeroth law of thermodynamics which we have to write in the exam is, I am gonna state now, if two systems are each in thermal equilibrium with third system, they are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. Listen carefully, I will repeat the zeroth law of thermodynamics one more time. If two systems are each in thermal equilibrium with the third system, they are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. So these were few important concepts in the previous lecture we have discussed, but in detail, if you want to learn in detail, then you have to go into my first lecture, then you will get it very easily and in very simple language. Now we will discuss what mean by the heat. So dear student, have you ever thought that when you are inserting your hand into the warm water, how do you feel? when you are touching to the hot object, how do you feel? How do you sense at that time? Why few of the domestic utensils have been applied by the rubber coating? Just think about these all examples and just try to get the definition of heat. So students, if you're not getting what is mean by heat, then don't take tension. I'm here to explain all the concept to you. So let's explain what mean by the heat. So heat is nothing but the something that sense hot. Means suppose any object is already heated, and when you touch with your hand, then what will happen? You will sense the high temperature, you will sense the high amount of heat to your hand, and you will immediately remove your hand from that object, and that is nothing but the heat. Now we will see some industrial examples. If you see the objects like iron get heated to mold it in the desired shape, then what is the first process? You have to apply the heat, the high amount of heat, then you will be able to mold that particular iron object into the desired and required shape. But while you are performing this operation, what kind of process you are following? Means the object you are heating with the high amount of heat or high amount of temperature, what you are doing exactly? First of all, you will wear the gloves to not to get harmed with that high amount of heat, because the heat flows from high point temperature to the low point temperature. That's why you are wearing the gloves. So one of the example is when you are molding that object with the hammer, then what happened? That hammer is also joined to the wooden object. So students, can you guess the answer that why there is a wooden object is introduced between your hand and the hammer? You can see in the picture, then you will get the exact answer. So there is a possibility that the object which is heated with the high amount of temperature, the heat can be flow from that object to the hammer and from that hammer to your hand. So that is why there has been a provision of wooden object. And in this article we are going to learn about the heat exchange or the transfer of heat between system and the surrounding, or the system or with the environment. In short, in this article we will be looking further for the heat transfer between the system and the surrounding. What are its different cases, that when the heat is flowing from the system to surrounding, then what conclusion will be there, and when the heat is flowing from surrounding to system, then what will be conclusion will be there, and in the third case, what is the conclusion will be there if there is no transfer of heat between the system and surrounding, then what we can concluding as. We will see this entire part in detail now. Now we are going to see the flow of temperature into system or out of system, or from the surrounding or to the surrounding. But one more thing we will have to note here, that the surrounding may be also directed, may be also written as the environment. The surrounding will be also written as the environment. So keep this thing in mind, student. So the T means the temperature of environment we are going to represent as, and the TS means the temperature of the system. Now we are going to see the energy flow into the system, from the system, and in the case where there will be the no transfer of heat between the system and the environment. Now we are going to see the first point, which is the energy flow into the system. Now here you can see the diagram. Here in this diagram you can see the notations which we have already indicated. The T means the temperature of environment and the TS means temperature of the system. So using these two notations we are going to demonstrate the energy flow into the system. How does the process of energy flow into the system will be carried, we will see now. In this diagram you can see now how the arrow is from environment to system, means it indicates the energy flow is from the environment to system. The energy is flowing from the environment to system. As we are already aware, the environment can be always given by the surrounding, means instead of surrounding we are using the word environment. You students will be get confused, so I have already cleared this one thing. So as you can see, the arrow is from the environment to system. The heat flow is from the environment to system. There is one significance of heat, that heat will always flow from the point at a higher temperature towards the point at a lower temperature. Hence we can say, as the heat arrow means arrow of heat transfer is from the environment into the system, so we can say the environment is having higher temperature while the system is having the lower temperature, which is indicated by the notation as TS is less than the TE. But the students, can you guess what is the meaning of the notation Q? So the notation Q is notified for the heat transfer between the system and the surrounding. As the energy means heat is flowing from the environment to system, then the Q is positive, means the transfer of heat during the system will be considered as the positive. So in this whole case we can see when the heat is transferred from the environment into the system and the Q will be the heat transfer, then we can say the system will gain the energy. In this case we can say that the Q is positive, means the flow of heat is from the point at a higher temperature toward the point at a lower temperature. Then we can say the Q means the Q will be the heat transfer. So this is the entire explanation we have seen of energy flow into the system, means energy flow will be there into the system from the environment. So students, you may having the question in your exam that explain the energy flow into the system. Then first of all you have to draw the diagram, means a well labeled diagram you have to draw. The system, where is environment and the boundary, these three things you have to indicate into your diagram. Then you have to explain the notified, means what is the letter TS is indicated for. It is indicated for the temperature of the system, and the T means the temperature of the environment, and the Q is the heat transfer between the environment and the system. These three things you have to write one by one in the systematic manner. Then you have to explain what is the temperature of environment, whether it is greater than the system or the lower than the system. On the basis of that you have to write one condition that T will be greater than the TS, means temperature of the environment will be greater than the TS. Then you will write the case that TS will be greater than the T, or T is less than the TS. Then you can say the nature of heat is from it always flow from point at a high temperature toward the point at a lower temperature, means there is no work done is required to flow the heat from the environment into the system. Then you can say the Q is positive, means the transfer of heat is the positive. These are the few important things that you have to mention in the exam when they will ask the question about energy flow into the system. But sometime they may ask, the examiner may give you the question, the energy flow into the system, or the energy flow from the surrounding, or the energy flow from the environment. These three cases can be made regarding this question. So you have to get ready for three of this question, and you have to write this answer in a very easy and systematic way. So from this one case you can say when the heat transfer, means transfer of heat from the environment into the system, then Q is positive, means the transfer of heat is the positive. This is the first case we have learned. Now remaining two cases we will learn, and the most important thing you have to mention in the answer is the Q, means transfer of heat will be positive in this case, so it will not be 0 or less than 0, means you have to mention in the symbolic form that Q is greater than 0. The Q means transfer of heat will be always greater than 0 in this case. You shouldn't forget to write this one. So dear students, what we have learned in this video we will just revise in a very short time, so that you will keep in mind for the long time, and you will be able to very easily write in the exam in the very simplest way. So let's check that what we have learned in this video. The first thing we have learned is the heat. The definition of heat. We have already saw the examples of heat, how the heat is transferred, and we have saw the objects, the heated objects we have seen with the help of examples. The industrial EG means industrial examples of the heated object, how the iron will get heated, how does it will appear, and how we should have to handle that one while we are just making in different kinds of operations over that heated object. We have just saw the overview over that. Then after that we have look after for the energy flow into the system, then how the Q will be determined as the positive, how the energy flow into the system from the environment, we have already looked after that. These all things we have already learned in this video. So students, if you have any doubt or any queries regarding this video, then those doubts you can ask me in the comment box. I will definitely answer that, or any part if you want me to take again, then I will definitely take that for your sake of your better understanding. So students, next part of this chapter we will see in the next video. Thank you so much.